Welcome back for another book review. Today we're talking about this huge book. It's so tall. It's not particularly thick, but man, it is tall. This is Magic and Witchcraft, an Illustrated History by Ruth Clydesdale. So this is a textbook. Like this is a textbook. It's written like a textbook. It reads like a textbook. So like it's a textbook. It's hard to get through, not gonna lie. This took like half a day because it's dense. Even though it says illustrated, there's like some pictures, but also it's like, oh my god, is there? Like, it didn't feel as short as you would think with like half the pages being pictures, and yet still you're just like, wow, my brain hurts after doing this. Now, are any of you gonna be a weirdo like me and read this in one sitting? Probably not. But yeah, it's a textbook. So, as the title would suggest, this is about magic and witchcraft and the history of both. It mainly starts in Rome, specifically after Christianity was already kind of a thing, and it was back and forth a little bit. Mostly that period forward. Spends a decent amount of time on the witch trials throughout all of Europe and America. And it goes into a lot more details than some books do, and does not have the usual romanticized of the past, which is awesome. That, you know, it actually does talk about that with like Margaret Murray, and actually where she kind of got it from as well. The people who wanted to change up history because convenience to their theory, and gives a little bit more of a gentle of probably why they did that, and you're like, okay. I feel like a historian should maybe try to not be super biased, but you know, also not a historian. I decided no. I'm gonna make money doing books instead of history, because that was my thing. I was gonna become a historian. Turns out that's not actually a job title. Thank you, documentaries. And the jobs in history don't pay you money. So you just have to become a teacher, and that's how you do it. And I was like, nah. So what did I do? I became a witchcraft teacher. God, could you imagine? Just such a side tangent, but just like if I had like a whiteboard behind me and it's like, okay, today class, we're gonna learn about like the zodiac of Aquarius. And like just like an actual teacher. That'd be pretty cool. But also, I mean, it's the age of the internet. Do people even use whiteboards anymore? Probably not. Do they still use smartboards? I don't know. I don't have kids, and I haven't stepped into a school in like 11 years. Anyways, so yeah, this goes through the history of witchery and kind of magic, and then it comes up kind of to present day. I gave it a 4 out of 5 star. I'm gonna be so real though. This is hard to get through. It's not quite Triumph of the Moon, but it's not that far off, and does actually quote him quite a bit throughout here. It is dense. This is a really dense book, so like, even though the size does not look super intimidating and it's got lots of pictures, no, it's a lot. Like, this was truly a workout for the brain. Usually I can get through in a book in like 2.5 hours or so, depending on size, obviously. This took me half of a day. Like, I had another book, I'm like, it's probably not gonna happen today, is it? Because I spend the first half of the day reading, and the second half like recording, editing, my book stuff, and this took the whole time. It's a huge chunker of a book. And like I mentioned, I do really appreciate that it's not the romanticized view of the past. There's no witch cult that existed. There's the debunking of the idea that there was the ancient goddess groups and stuff that you're just like, no. It debunks it a little bit. I think Ronald Hutton did it a lot more, but obviously it's a huge book in comparison, and this one just touches on it a little bit. To be honest, it spends a lot of time on the witch trials, and that felt like the majority. By the time we got to modern day, which honestly, like every book does this, why? Because if you look at like the modern history of modern witchcraft and modern paganism, we have the most information, and yet it is the least written about every time. We genuinely don't really know, without a lot of academic guessing, what our ancestors did as pagans. We have some ideas, but a lot of it we don't know. A lot of it was changed intentionally, so that by the time we get to it, it's like, we got some, kinda, ish, and you have to really sort through a lot. And yet, when we have stuff, we have people that, you know, there's people alive today that probably, I don't know about Gerald Gardner, because it's getting pretty old now, but, like, people who knew Scott Cunningham, Raymond Buckland, like, people who know, like, the big names for our religion, our spirituality, like, those people are here. You could talk to those people, and they don't. They just do a super brief. Like, we spent a little bit of time on, you know, the weirdos, you know, like, getting to learn about Aleister Crowley, where you're like, bro, that was a choice. And Cochrane, I knew I didn't know a lot about him until this book, and if I remember, there was one book I read a while ago that was like a love letter to him, and looking at it now, I'm like, wow. My inner guidance of why are we worshiping this dude proved to true. And then talking about Alex Sanders and his wife for a minute, and not really putting any of them on a particular pedestal, which is good, and talking about Gardner a little bit, but then also, like, it skips over huge names. It's like, oh yeah, and then there's like Sea Budapest, and then like there's Starhawk, and then like we're in the internet age. It's like there was a lot more. And also it claimed Doreen Valiente is the one who said that you don't need a coven to be a witch, like you don't need to be initiated by anyone, but I swear it's been always referred to as Cunningham, which gave me a true spin of my brain to be like, do I have to go back and change that in my own book? What do you mean? Because I've always heard it, and like I swear he said it in interviews, but now of course when you're trying to find it, you're like, but where? Where it was like Cunningham was the first one to really argue like who initiated the first witch, and like you don't need to have somebody initiate, you don't need to be in a coven, you can do it yourself. And then this book was like, no, Doreen Valiente, she did that. And who's Scott Cunningham? Even though, if we're being honest, as far as impact goes, Gardner Cunningham, I'm gonna be real, because like you either talk about Gardner because he started Wicca, realistically, you know, he's the name who started it all. And then Cunningham is the one we use the most. Authors, myself included, we go to his books still. He's been dead for 30 years. We still go to his books. And yet, we're not talking about him. We're talking about Starhawk, that most people only really refer to her like one book, really. And like that's it. And that was published, wasn't it like 50 years ago? Getting close to 50 years ago, if it's not. I think it was like maybe the 70s or something, which again, it's getting old. And yet, again, nobody is really using that book like we actively use Cunningham's. When you look at his encyclopedias, we still use that. That's still a major source of usage in the community, yet he's not even included in here. And I don't know, like that, it's the thing where it's like, it's kind of proof that you're outside of the community, but like also, like why are you not talking about like even modern names too? I mean, in the modern world, a lot of the big names that come up are going to be Deborah Blake. She's really popular. You also have like Christopher Penczak, really good author as well, very contemporary. Even like Jason Mankey, he's a bigger name coming up now. Like there's newer names that are getting more popular, even like Devin Hunter. There are names, why are you not mentioning them? And even talking about online, again, names, why aren't you mentioning them? Like I get they come and go, because I've been here on the internet since like 2000, God, I've almost been on the internet for 20 years. Wow. Because my first time I had the internet in my house, because I'm old, was in, I think it was like 2008 is when we actually really had the internet. And I was in like 7th grade. So like, up until that point, you didn't really have the internet, you know? Like you'd kind of use it at school or go to the library or whatever. But that's not a thing now. Like kids today will never know a house probably that does not have the internet. Unless they like go and visit like grandparents or something that are like old school and are like, no, I don't need it. Like my dad, anytime he needs anything with like technology outside of making a phone call, hi. But like, I don't know, it's weird to think about the internet being that old. But also, I mean, I watched a lot of the witchy pagan community online in like 2009 to like 2012-ish was like my deep hardcore looking online period. And like there was a lot, and some of the names still have persisted. Kellyanne Maddox used to be the Four Queens back in the old days, you know, with the usernames. I refuse to drop mine. I feel like one day I'm gonna have a name for it. Like, it's gonna mean more than just my channel name. But like, I don't know. Like, is that what I want to call like my tradition? Which feels weird, but also I'm getting to the point of like, no, I've read so many books. I've got a very niche thing that I do. But like, also I don't. It's in the process. But like, back in the day, you know, I can't bring myself to give it up, you know? To be like, nah, I'ma switch everything ever over to my author name. No. And even my author channel that eventually I will revive, I'm also not gonna do it either, because that one does not work at all. When you have two author names, two pen names, doesn't work. So it's like, it's not the point. No. But also, why are we not talking about like the big names that have been huge influences to the community at large? And again, nothing. Like, really, Modern was like a page and a half of this entire book. And it's like, but there's so many things. There was no talk about huge history moments in the modern era. And like, there was like the small mention, no, actually, I don't even know if it mentioned that, when the acts were repealed in the UK, like within our lifetime. I think it was like in the 2010s, I think, right? Like it was a recent something changed over there. But over here, it was in my lifetime that pagans and Wiccans were able to get the pentacle put on like veterans' graves. And like, no mention of that. No mention of Pagan Pride Day. Like, no mention of any of that. Like, even like Selena Fox with Circle Sanctuary, no mention. Like, there's no mention, like, so little research on the modern practices. And it's like, if you're gonna do the history, yeah, history books, sure, whatever, super biased. Glad we're gonna spend like hundreds of pages on that. And then you spend like less than 20 on the modern stuff that you could actually talk to people about that are in it now. And it's not just this book, every book does it. And it's like, okay, but like also that's still history. That's still, there's pagans out there right now that they weren't alive when that happened. They weren't there for the witches having to come together in America in a very decentralized religion to become centralized enough to make legal change. That's history. Not mentioned at all. So, I don't know. It always bothers me when books do that. It's like, just add it just a little bit. It doesn't take that much effort, but whenever we talk about the history, we tend to just gloss it over. And I just don't care about history that much anymore, because it's so much of just like, it literally, how a story is spun depends on who tells it. Like, if you watch the news and you try and watch it from like 6 different sources, very leaning different ways, it's very hard to find the actual truth. Like, it's really hard because they're gonna swing it any which way they want. And you don't think actively trying to be super duper biased would have happened? I don't know. I've become so disillusioned with history. Like, I just don't care at all. Like, I don't know. But like, why not talk about, again, the recent history? That's more fascinating, where you could like interview the people who have been around. Again, Selena Fox, she's been here for a long time. She's getting pretty old, but like, she's still very actively doing stuff, so I'm pretty sure her mind is fine. So you could like talk to her and like get ideas. But no, we just super briefly like, and we're here, we're done, yay, I'm so done with my research because we're in the modern era. I don't know, just bothers me. So I would recommend this if you are a new witch and you're needing to learn the history, and remember that it is not romanticized, because that is something new witches need to watch for. You are going to get so much misinformation of the past. It's super perpetuated. This book discusses it a little bit. This is a good introduction to the history, but also read Ronald Hutton. She's got the good books. Start with Triumph of the Moon. I haven't read his others. That one is super dense. Just go buy it at this point. Don't try and rent it unless you are prepared, because it is dense And that comes from somebody who's read, I think, close to 1,000 books on this channel between here and Patreon. Like, it's at least getting close to 1,000 at this point. 'Cause several hundred, well over 500. And so, like, I've read a lot. When I say it's a really dense book and still stands out as the densest book I have ever read, ever in my entire life, just saying, that should hold some weight. So anyways, thank you for watching to get to the very end of this very rambly review. And thank you to my Patreon peeps. If you'd like to support me, get access to more rambles from me. It's always linked down below, as well as my books. And on Patreon, you can find my audiobooks for free, even though I probably will be renovating them a lot and redoing them. But, you know, for now they're there. And then they'll still be free. I'm just gonna probably redo them because some of the audio sucks. So I gotta just redo it. I don't want to, but I need to. So anyways, until next time, thank you so much for coming along. And until next time, blessed be.